Hello, here's a story about Winnie the Pooh. It's a series of books, and this is number 6. I don't have all of them, but this is volume 6, and it's from Disney's Out and About with Pooh, a Grow and Learn library. The author is Ronald Kidd, and it was designed by Vicki Boylan. And so here it is, Eeyore's Happy Tail. And tail is spelled T-A-I-L, which is a tail on an animal, right? All right, here's a nice picture, and you can see all the friends, Winnie the Pooh's friends, just about all of them. There's Pooh, Roo, Piglet, Tigger, Owl, Rabbit, Christopher Robin, and there's Eeyore kicking up his feet and his tails in the air. They're having a good time. Well, guess what? We'll see what was happening in that. Eeyore was laughing, and his friends were laughing too, gathered in a jolly group all around him. They loved his jokes, they loved his songs, they loved the way he would drop everything and do a little dance, because that's just the sort of donkey he was. Everyone loved spending time with Eeyore. Wherever he went, fun wasn't far behind. And that's exactly what he was thinking about. While he was, let's see, Eeyore opened his eyes. Uh-oh. Look at that kind of sad face, right? He's all alone. Eeyore opened his eyes and he was sitting in a thistle patch all alone. The jolly group had been a dream. So had the jokes and songs and dances, and instead of feeling happy, Eeyore was quite sad. Because that's just the sort of donkey he was. Well, he closed his eyes again, hoping that happy Eeyore would come back. Sure enough, he did hear someone laughing. There he is, shutting his eyes and thinking, maybe I can go back to sleep. I liked that dream. But he heard someone laughing, and he looked, and there was a voice. Hello there, Eeyore. Opening his eyes, he saw Tigger bouncing towards him. There he is. If you know Tigger, he loves to bounce, doesn't he? Beautiful day, isn't it? Said Tigger. Eeyore replied, I suppose it is, for some. Tigger bounced up and down, wearing a big grin, which he often does. Eeyore watched him closely. He thought that if he looked hard enough, perhaps he could see what made Tigger so happy. And that's when he noticed Tigger's tail. It was a cheerful, crinkly sort of tail. And when Tigger bounced, it folded up like an accordion and sent him flying toward the sky. Can you see that? Boing, boing, boing. He's always so happy and jumping, and it's this tail kind of gives him a big bounce. It crinkles up like an accordion. And there's Eeyore going, whoa, now I see what causes that. Eeyore looked back at his own tail. It didn't fold up. It didn't crinkle. It just hung there. He looks concerned, doesn't he? Well, there you have it, he said. Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I read the wrong person. Well, there you have it, he said. There you have what? Asked Tigger. A tail, Eeyore replied. A very sad tail. Tigger went around to the other end of Eeyore and looked at his tail. I think I see the problem, he reported back. We'll have you fixed up in no time. Whoop! He gave Eeyore's tail a good crinkling. He folded it up and called out to Eeyore, okay, you're all set. Now lean back, and before you know it, you'll be bouncing just like me. So there he's looking at his tail. And there's our sad friend. And there's Tigger folding up Eeyore's tail, and he thinks this will work and help him to bounce. What do you think? Eeyore leaned back. Am I bouncing yet? He asked, trying to contain his excitement. Almost, said Tigger. Whoop! Eeyore leaned farther and farther back, and for a moment he thought he felt a bounce coming on. And then all at once, he really did feel something. There's Tigger trying to encourage him. And there's Eeyore leaning back on his tail. And then all at once he really did feel something. It was the ground. He had fallen over. Poor guy, there he is. Eeyore looked up at his friend. "Thank you for your help, Tigger," he said, "but I don't think my tail was meant for bouncing." "Then what was it meant for?" asked Tigger. It was a question Eeyore couldn't answer, but he thought he knew someone who could. So there they are talking about his tail. And they don't know the answer of what his tail is for, but they know someone who they can ask. Now, if you've read the Winnie the Pooh stories, you'll know who was one of the very wise animals. Who do you think they went to? In another part of the forest, Owl was talking about his favorite subject, great owls and history. Pooh sat nearby trying to listen, but reminded him of his favorite subject, great honey pots in history, and he was about to go looking for a honey pot, that is, when Eeyore came plodding down the path. Owl, said Eeyore, "I have an important question. It has to do with tails." "Tails?" asked Owl. "I've got just the thing." And here comes Eeyore plodding down the path with his question, and he's talking to Pooh and Owl. They've been chatting, and here comes Eeyore with his question. Well, Owl went into his house and came out holding a big book, and it was called Tales Around the World. There's his big book he pulled out of his owl home in the tree. And there's Pooh and Eeyore waiting to hear. Clearing his throat, Owl said, "You see, tales are some of the most interesting things in the animal kingdom. Different tales are used in different ways. For instance, my great-uncle Herman," and he went on. Well, a long while later, Owl said, "Now, did someone have a question?" I think Eeyore did," said Pooh, "but it's hard to remember back that far." So here is Owl telling about the tales, and then Pooh's getting kind of tired because Owl likes to talk a lot. He has a lot of information, and he loves to share it, but sometimes we'll get a little tired. But Eeyore's still paying attention, isn't he? Yeah, he's still listening. Eeyore, who had been waiting patiently, which is a good thing, right, said, "As you know, Owl, my tail is rather sad and droopy. Is there anything I can do to make it a happy tail?" "Excellent question," said Owl. So there they are talking. See? He opened his book and flipped through the pages. Happy tales, happy tales. Ah, yes, here we are. One of the happiest tales in the animal kingdom is a dog's tail. It wags back and forth whenever the dog is excited. So there he is looking at a page that says dog, and you can see some pictures of a dog's tail moving, just the side of it. And he's saying that would be a nice tail to have, right? Eeyore liked the idea of wagging his tail, and he asked the others to step back and give him some room. And then he did some stretching exercises to make sure he wouldn't hurt himself. Finally, he took a deep breath and wagged. He wagged every part of his body that he could, but the one part that wouldn't wag was his tail. There they are. They're excited, and waiting and watching and thinking, "Oh!" And he's wiggling all over and wagging all over, but his tail wouldn't wag. Pooh reached over and tried to wag Eeyore's tail for him, pushed it back and forth, but somehow it wasn't the same. "Perhaps wagging isn't the answer," said Pooh. And there they are, where Pooh's wagging his tail, and they're all realizing that it's not quite the same. Well, Owl nodded and turned to another page in his book. "The beaver also has a happy tail. It's long and flat, like a paddle. He uses it to pound mud and sticks together when he built his home. And there he shows them a picture of a beaver's tail. Rounded at the end and very long and flat. So, what do you think Eeyore does? Eeyore thought that pounding was a fine way to use his tail, and he led Owl and Pooh down to the edge of the stream. Gathering up some sticks, he set them on the muddy bank beneath his tail and tried to pound them. But what his tail did wasn't exactly pounding. It was more like flapping in the breeze. Eeyore just sighed. Oh. So here they are, Owl and Pooh, and there's the wood they've gathered, and there's Eeyore with some in his mouth that he'd helped gather. But his tail was not made for pounding. He's not a beaver. He's not a dog. He's not some of those other animals, right? Well, Owl flipped through the book once again. Here's another happy tale, he said. A monkey tail is almost like a hand. The monkey uses it to hang from branches and swing through the trees. So there's Owl reading on about monkeys. And there we know. That's a monkey and his tail. And Eeyore imagined himself swinging through the trees by his tail. He almost smiled just thinking about it. Maybe a monkey tail was exactly what he needed. There, that's him thinking about it, imagining in his mind. Wow, wouldn't that be something? Have you ever thought like that? Well, Eeyore wrapped his tail around a tree branch, and then he closed his eyes, and he concentrated on swinging through the tree like a monkey. Got his eyes closed and concentrating. Well, after a while, Eeyore opened his eyes. Well, I'll be, he said, looking down. Owl and Pooh look just like ants. Here he is, his tail on this branch, which is kind of low. And he looks and he sees these two ants and he goes, wow, I must be up high. Owl and Pooh look like little ants. But what Eeyore was seeing were ants, because he had never left the ground. He didn't have a tail like a monkey either, did he? Owl flipped through his book and said, here's another happy tale. I don't know if I can stand much more happiness, Eeyore said. Here's a picture of him with the new tail that Pooh and Owl are showing him. Do you know what kind of tail that is? That's a fan that looks like a peacock, right? This one is perfect, said Owl. You don't wag it or pound it or swing on it. All you do is walk around and let people admire it. It's a peacock tail. Owl went into his house and got a fan. He pinned it to Eeyore's tail and spread it out so all the colors showed. And that's the picture I showed you. That's a pretty amazing fan. It does look like a peacock's tail. There you have it, said Owl proudly. Now you have a happy tail. Pooh said, Eeyore, you must be very, happy. You know, Eeyore said, glancing back at his new tail, I think maybe I am. And there he is, looking back at his tail that's just pinned on him. And he's thinking, yeah, I should be happy. I think I am. Eeyore spent the rest of the morning admiring his reflection in the pond. And when he grew tired of that, he went to see his friend Christopher Robin. So he doesn't have a mirror, but he can look in the pond. The water is like a mirror, and he looked at his tail, and he thought it was pretty nice looking. Christopher Robin was sitting under an oak tree with Pooh, Piglet, and Tigger. He looked up and said, my goodness, I didn't know we had a peacock in the forest. Christopher Robin, I'm not a peacock, said the old donkey. I'm Eeyore. And here's a picture of Eeyore sitting there with his friends and talking to Christopher Robin. And Christopher Robin said, I'm sorry, but you can't be Eeyore. Eeyore's tail is sad and droopy. That's one of the things I love about him. It is, said Eeyore. Eeyore looked at Christopher Robin and then at his new tail. Slowly he reached around and took off the fan. Eeyore, it really is you, said Christopher Robin, giving him a big hug. I'm glad that you're back. So am I, said Eeyore. There he is. They're giving each other some affection and love. Said that wasn't the real Eeyore, was it? That fan was pinned on him. It wasn't his. He was so happy, Christopher Robin, to see him looking just like he normally did. And let's see what else happens. Pooh, Piglet, and Tigger came up beside Christopher Robin. Smiling and laughing, they formed a jolly group, almost like the one in Eeyore's dream, remember at the beginning? And even though he didn't joke or sing or do a little dance, Eeyore felt happy. You know why? Because he had friends who loved him just the way he was. And there's his happy friends. They look very happy. And there's that loving picture again of the Christopher Robin with Eeyore. He loved him for just who he was. He didn't have to have a fancy tail. He didn't have to be a different animal. He just needed to be himself. And he realized that was pretty special. And that's the end. See you later.